30 seconds. 20 seconds. 10 seconds.
Hi,
My name's J.C. McCauley.
I'm Naisha McCauley, and you're watching AccessTV.org.
Good morning again. This is Jonathan Small, host and producer of All About You. And All About You is one of two different programs that I broadcast live every single week at AccessTV.org studios. All About You is a show that's designed to give the guest the chance to give his or her life story. This morning on All About You, I have a very successful musician who was part as a member of one of the most successful pop duo music groups of all time. And he played a critical role in this particular band, and we have been privileged at AccessTV.org studios to have this legendary guest of a legendary group. The guest this morning on All About You is the multi-instrumentalist. He's a saxophonist, keyboardist, and background singer of the legendary pop duo Hall Oates, no other than Charlse DeChant. Good morning, Charles. How are you doing?
I'm doing good, Jonathan. How's it going with you?
It's going fine, Charles, and it's our pleasure to have you on as this particular guest for All About You. Charles, from what I know, you were born and raised in Florida, but I don't know what part of Florida that you are from.
Right, I was not born in Florida. I was actually born in Long Beach, California. My dad was stationed there in the Navy.
Okay.
And when I was about 3 months old, we flew. I mean, that was a big deal, flying back then.
Mm-hmm.
We flew to their hometown in north central Pennsylvania, and I lived there until I was 7. Then we moved to Florida. So I pretty much grew up in Florida.
Now, which part of Florida did you grow up in?
I grew up in Clearwater.
Okay. What was it like in Clearwater growing up as a kid?
Yeah, great. They got a nice beach there.
When did the desire or love for you to learn how to become a musician, particularly the saxophone, got started?
Well, the saxophone didn't start until after I moved to Florida. When we were in New York, when we were in Pennsylvania, I took piano lessons with my mom. And you're like, oh, I like that piano, But when we moved to Florida, we didn't have a piano. So that was it for piano.
Mm.
And yeah, they were starting a band, like one of the school bands, and like pick an instrument. I kind of wanted to play the violin, but there was no room for a violin in this band, marching band or whatever. So I picked the saxophone, and I've kind of stuck with it.
Is the saxophone a hard instrument to learn? Is something you got to kind of put a lot of practice, of time? I mean, what was the whole ins and outs of you learning?
Yeah, well, any instrument that takes a lot of practice and time to really master it, But they told me that it was an easy instrument, but it's not that easy,
Did you look up to any particular other saxophonists before you got started or while you was learning?
Oh, well, yeah. Before I got started, not really. I mean, I didn't really know about any saxophone. But, once I started playing, I started checking people out. And, Charlie Parker I don't know if he was an influence, but I definitely listened to him. Stan Getz and Paul Desmond, who was the sax player with Dave Brubeck, they actually had hits on the radio, at that time, instrumental hits. Imagine that.
Mm-hmm.
So I enjoyed them, and King Curtis, who played with the Coasters, and David Fathead Newman, who played with Ray Charles. I was very influenced by his sound. Yeah.
So when did you knew that you were getting good, or that you was really had this knack for being a top saxophonist?
Well, the bands that I played in the Catalinas in Clearwater, and we played pop music, and there was room for a saxophone player. It's funny. I went off to college, and when I came back, the other two horn players that were in the band were playing guitars. And in fact, I started playing guitar when I was in college too. Basically acoustic guitar, and I still do. I'm still kind of an amateur guitar player, but I write a lot of stuff on guitar.
But you also play the keyboard as well, don't you?
Yeah.
Okay, so
Yeah,
you're
I do.
pretty good.
That not having a piano back in the day was like anytime I saw a piano, if I had a chance, I would sit down and play something on it or try and play something or write something.
What do you like the best, the keyboard or the saxophone?
Well, I like them both, but the saxophone, I just have more facility on the sax.
To do that. So again, now you say after college, what did you do exactly after you graduated college or that you finished college, basically?
I didn't graduate from college. I kind of dropped out of college.
Okay.
I lost my scholarship, and I was not able to finish up. Yeah, I kind of hung out and joined several bands, and some of them not really touring bands, but out of town. I mean, I went to Georgia, and it was went to Atlanta, So, but yeah, I traveled around basically around the South. I was in New York for a while, but I was never able to make a living there until much later.
But Charles, what type of style of music did you prefer or did you really play? Or was there a particular style of music that you was really good at or that you enjoyed participating in?
Well, I love playing R&B music,
Uh-huh.
Rhythm and blues. And I love doing that. In jazz, I always listen to jazz. I play some jazz. But again, I was never in an area that I could make a living at it.
Now, for the rhythm and blues artists, I mean, which particular artists did you kind of like to pad in your style or just you like to listen to in general?
Yeah, well, I like Junior Walker, but I wouldn't say that his style was a big influence on me, but maybe King Curtis, like I said, David Newman, Fathead Newman from the Ray Charles band. Yeah, big influence. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Now, obviously, many people recognize you and know you of your work, particularly with Hall Oates. But how did you end up meeting Hall Oates before you even decided, or before it was even decided that you would become
I knew a couple. A bass player and drummer, Steve Dees and Eddie Zine, had gone to New York. I had already made attempts to go to New York, but I really didn't know very many people there. So they went up to New York and they got this gig with Hall Oates before they had really had any big hits. I think Sarah Smile was just coming out when they joined up with the band. And so Daryl and John wanted to add a multi-instrumentalist to the band, like saxophone. So they said they wanted saxophone, Hammond organ, and conga drums. So Steve Dees and Eddie recommended me, and they tried a couple of guys in New York that they didn't like them. So they said, "Well, give this guy a chance." And Daryl was producing an album for Steve, so I went up and I played on the album, and I auditioned with the band, and I got the gig.
But you kind of came along at the highlight of their most successful starting point, because I don't know what Rich Girl was one of their first big singles, or was it Sarah Smile? Which was technically their first big major single?
Well, I think it was probably Sarah Smile, and they did She's Gone on an album,
right? And
I remember that Tavares covered it, and they had a hit on it, and so they became known for that. That song had like a major sax solo in the middle of it. Joe Farrell played it. And so when I was auditioning with it, was like, I'm gonna have to learn this solo like note for note, and which I had not done a whole lot of that, but I did. I wrote it out and I played it note for note. So yeah, which I still do these days. great solo, and Joe Farrell was actually a great player. But I lost my train of thought there. I was going to explain something. When I first joined the band, the album "Bigger Than Both of Us" had just come out, or was just on its way out, and so "Rich Girl" was on that. So that was another big hit that they had.
But you're right. I think "She's Gone" might have been their first major. I don't know if it was a #1 single, but it was one of their first big hits.
Yeah, it definitely was before "Sarah Smile" and before "Rich Girl." Yeah.
Now, the songwriting was not only done by Daryl Hall, but wasn't this lady Sarah Allen, if I'm saying her name correctly, or some Sarah lady, because that might have been.
Yeah. Sarah Allen was. She was Daryl's girlfriend, longtime girlfriend, and she wrote some lyrics to the songs. And her sister Jana also wrote some lyrics to, like "Kiss on My List."
Mm-hmm.
She co-wrote that with Daryl. Yeah.
Right. Well, I thought.
And plus, John wrote a lot of the songs. He wrote actually "Man Eater" and "Out of Touch."
Yeah. And those are two songs that you clearly had a big solo part of the saxophone.
Yeah, the "Man Eater" thing, that solo, I've played that solo many, many times.
Well, the thing about "Man Eater" now, before Daryl Hall even starts singing, you start off playing the saxophone. I don't know if you remember the video, but in the video, you actually start off in the beginning with the saxophone, and then that kind of leads into Daryl Hall singing. So when you were writing the songs, how did you have any input? I mean, how you were going to participate with your saxophone and your other instrument? I mean, what was the whole process of that part?
Yeah, it's a process. I mean, they might have an idea of what they want to hear, and I'll try and play that, and then they'll try something else. Maybe a lot of times I'll say, well, just play what you want, and I play what I want. Oh, yeah, I like that. So usually I'll say, can we take that squeak out? No, leave that in. We love it.
Mm-hmm. Right.
But it's a process, during recording. Mostly my solos are never written out.
Mm-hmm.
If I play with a horn section, there's stuff that's usually written out. In fact, lately I've been writing stuff out myself. Transcriptions of what's on the record, kind of thing.
Now, I mean, people don't realize, though, you were in many of the videos, because it's not just like, you were just some saxophonist and people didn't see you. If you look at the videos, and I mean several different videos, "One-on-One," you had a solo performance in that particular video. "Man Eater," as I just mentioned, you did the introduction part before Daryl Hall started singing. You also did some of the background vocalists as well. So you kind of really was interacting with them in front of the camera to go along with behind the scenes, if people don't realize.
When the video started, basically when I first joined the band, their touring band never recorded on the records. They were recording in LA, and the session guys, great session guys, but would have been great if the band had been played on it. But the first album that I played on of theirs was called "Lifetime," and it was a live album with the live band at the time.
Mm-hmm. "Rich Girl," now, did you have any participation on that single?
I did not.
Mm-hmm.
I started going to their recording sessions, and I quickly, it's like if I'm not actually doing something, there's no saxophone solos in the tune, and I didn't play keyboards on the record or guitar or anything, and so I got very bored. It's basically like a watching paint dry if you're not actively involved in it. So I was only involved if they had a saxophone solo or a saxophone part to play on.
Right. Now, I don't know if you can clarify this, but there's been some, not even rumors, that Billie Jean, Michael Jackson got the inspiration for that song from Daryl Hall and John Oates. "I Can't Go For That."
Yeah, I've heard that. And I think actually Michael mentioned that to Daryl at one point.
Now, don't the beginning tracks sound kind of similar? If you really listen to Billie Jean and I Can't Go For That, you can kind of hear some
Yeah,
similarities
yeah,
slightly to do that.
sure.
Uh-huh. Now, you was in the video for that particular song. You did
Uh-huh.
some background vocalists, and you had a couple of solo sessions in the song.
Yeah.
So it's like almost okay. This is a great song, no doubt about it. I think it went number one, but I think your saxophone brings the song to another different level. It's a great song. The beats, the skills that Daryl Hall and John Oates bring clearly stands out. But I think
Uh-huh.
your saxophone in this, and I'm not just saying this because you're as a guest, it just really brings the song, I think, to another different level.
Yeah,
Um,
that song, I Can't Go For That, No Can Do, has been like a song that usually they open it up for some from soloing, so like for some improvisation, and I kind of live for that, and for the live show,
mm.
and
Which, uh-huh.
yeah, go ahead.
Well, I was going to ask you, which songs out of all of the songs of Hall & Oates do you like the best that you participated on?
That's one of my favorites. Man Eater's a good song too, but I'm sort of like hemmed in by you know playing what's written and so to speak written.
Uh-huh.
What's been there with the delay, the echo thing in it. Um, I enjoy that,
Mm-hmm.
and there's a. I'm trying to think of what's happening in the live show now. I have a solo in Every Time You Go Away. I've got a big solo there, and but I mostly enjoy playing on No Can Do.
No Can Do, yeah. Well, one on one, I mean, you hold your own definitely with that solo performance as well. Um, I don't even know if you remember this because it's really going far back, but that song one on one was like the theme song for the 1983 NBA Finals because every time they would play an NBA championship commercial, that song came out or came on the commercial. So
Yeah, I guess one on one for the basketball references
mhm,
in there.
ex-
Yeah,
exactly.
I didn't realize that. No.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's going way back. I was say 1983,
Yeah,
but I remember that very, very popular
sure.
song. The success that you had, I mean, touring. Where were some of the places that Hall and Oates would travel throughout the world as you were touring?
Around the world, yeah. Well, we've been to England a few times, Scotland, even Ireland, um, Germany, the Netherlands, France. Went to Spain.
Mm,
Finally went to Spain. Uh, let's see. We just with Daryl and Todd Rundgren have been doing a double act. The band backs up Todd, and then we take a little break and we back up Daryl for another set. So, but we just came back from Japan and Manila. That's a couple weeks ago. We came back. Yeah.
mm. Now
So
you,
yeah, we've been around. I mean, we played. Trying to think of where else actually we finally went to South America. We played three countries in South America: Argentina, Chile, and Brazil. A couple of years ago.
mhm. Now again, the songwriting collaboration with Sarah Allen, because what I believe what Daryl Hall and John Oates did most of the songwriting, but Sarah
Yeah,
Allen, what did she play a big role as well? It just seems like she had a big part in the song.
she did co-write some of the lyrics. I don't think that she actually wrote the music, but she did, like like I said, co-write some of the lyrics.
Mhm. The thing about people may find a little bit, and it's never brought up as any criticism, but Daryl Hall does most of the lead singing. I think technically there might have been what maybe 4 to 6 songs that John Oates actually was the lead. I think he did the lead song in "She's Gone," if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, well, they both sang on "She's Gone." They would alternate verses and then sing harmonies in
Right,
the
right.
chorus.
But you don't remember too many songs that just John Oates took the lead. I think this song, what, Obsession or Possession, the video he's
Possession,
driving.
Obsession,
Yeah, he's driving a taxi cab in the video. He takes the clear lead in that. And you was in the video too, doing the backgrounds as well. So, I mean, was you having fun when you was in the videos, participating?
I generally don't have a lot of fun in the videos. It's lip syncing, you know.
Okay.
I don't actually get to really play. You just you pretend like you're playing, you know, in costumes. And that Possession Obsession, I remember, was particularly cold. Mm-hmm. we were out in the cold on that, and you know, by that time I was living in New York, but I'm still a Florida boy at heart, you know, and it was very cold.
Well, that video, you can see a New York taxi cab, so I would assume that, you know, it could be someplace else. But you're saying it was cold, so that was technically in New York. And the thing that stood out again was just seeing John Oates as the lead vocalist, because it's just very rare that you know you see him as the lead vocal. But he's a good singer. I think people don't realize that as well, and everything. So. Currently, are you still performing with Daryl Hall or Hall Oates? I mean, you have any interaction?
Yeah, well, we, like I said, we just came back a couple of weeks from Japan and the Philippines, and we've been touring as Daryl and Todd Rundgren for a year and a half, something like that. But you know, it's like now you don't go out for more than 2-3 weeks at a time. Mm-hmm. It's not like in the big 80s, we've been gone for a long time, you know. It's not very good for the family life.
Right. It's a lot of work and it takes a lot of energy. I mean, you've been playing what you say, I thought it was 6 decades from the 70s, but you said you've been in the music industry playing saxophone, what, beyond the 70s. So that's been a long time that you've been participating in it and everything like that. So currently, you still are residing in Florida.
Yeah, well, we moved to New York. We lived there for like 14 years. Both of our daughters were born. Mm-hmm. Actually, Sheila and I got married in '76, and I think about 3 months after we got married, I went up to audition with Daryl and John. You know, and it's like I came back, it's like, well, they want me to join the band. You know, who knows? I passed the audition, and I said, well, and she said, absolutely not. You know. I don't want you to leave. When I said, well, let's give it a chance. I mean, this is the big time, you know. So, so let's try it for a year, you know. So it's been, you know, 50 years so far.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you this question. I mean, I know Hall & Oates, they are in the Songwriters Hall of Fame, but they're also in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Would that include you too, technically? I mean, how does that whole process go about?
I don't know how that Rock and Roll Hall of Fame things that I've gotten several awards at Gold Records and American Music Awards and that kind of stuff. Here, I'll just like I have them up on my wall.
Oh, I see it. Yeah, exactly.
And platinum, you know, that stuff. I put those up on top of my bookshelf.
Yeah.
And so I've won a bunch of that stuff, but as far as
well, hold on.
being inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, I was there.
You was there. Okay.
Was there. We played.
Now, hold on. You just said that you won American and Music Awards because you were just showing some awards at the top. Is that?
Yeah, those pyramid things. I was given some of those, like the Gold Records that I played on. I've got those too.
To do that.
You know, records. You remember records?
Yeah. It went from records and then to CDs. I don't even know what they call it now. Maybe it went through the transformation of different levels and everything. You know, and I know it's not you, but I mean, Daryl has been noted as what they call it, Blue Eye. What's the type of a song that they call his style of music? Is it Blue Eye?
Blue Eyed Soul. They call it.
Yeah.
He's not crazy about that term, but yeah, they call it that.
Exactly.
Also, you know, they've been in a yacht rock category too, which is what the heck does that mean? You know.
I don't know who got that label first, because that group that sung "Baby Come Back," I think they was labeled the same as well. I think I can't remember the group's name, but they was always mentioning. You remember that song, "Baby Come Back"?
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah.
Trying to think who that was.
I can't remember who sung
I
that.
can't remember their name right now either.
Yeah, but real popular songs and real popular style of music between the two. I mean, truthfully, it looks like you're one of the best saxophonists. I mean, for your longevity and then the style that you bring. Um, do you feel like you can just say claim to fame? You can hold your own with anybody when it comes time for playing saxophone? Do you feel that confidence in yourself?
I feel pretty confident. Yeah, like some of the more esoteric jazz stuff, or the technical classical saxophone. I don't feel confident to deal with that. But yeah, I feel pretty confident to play with anybody in the rock industry, as they say.
Yeah. I think sometime maybe this generation may not recognize and realize, how successful and popular Hall Oates, consist of towards that peak, I think, of the mid 70s to about the mid to the late 80s. I mean, they were on top of the game in many different categories. You definitely contributed, quite brilliantly.
A lot of the younger people, they say, well, Hall Oates, who's that? And then you play them some songs. Oh yeah, I know that song. Because they were big hits.
Yeah. Well, actually, there's some type of online segment. It's called a reaction. And some of Hall & Oates songs are, I guess the host, they will play the song and then they'll give a reaction to it. And one time a female, she was playing one-on-one, and this female just melted when she heard the lyrics and heard the song. She didn't even realize at first that was Daryl Hall. But it was just, so the young generation, when they still listen to the old Hall & Oates, they are really impressed with the music. It's just that they just didn't come along in that particular era. So you kind of have a big, long-lasting influence on even the young.
Yeah, we get older people, we get younger people in the concerts too.
Exactly. So what's some of the current projects that you are working on right now, or that you're planning to be working on?
My own stuff?
I guess you can say your own stuff, or any collaborations with Daryl Hall. I mean, what it's you solo.
No, for me. It hasn't been so much of a collaboration because I don't write music with them.
Mm-hmm.
I write my own music, and I haven't had it hasn't been my thing to actually co-write songs with Daryl or John either. But you know about Live from Daryl's House. You've heard about that.
I've heard about that, right.
Yeah.
And
I've been on quite a few of those, but most of the band live up in the New York area. And I have moved back to Florida since 92. I moved back to Florida. So that's where I am. And they call me up when they need a sax player on something. And I've played with quite a few people on Live from Daryl's House, the OJs, Glenn Tilbrook from Squeeze. Who else? Well, just quite a few people that have actual saxophones in their music.
Well, was you at Daryl's house when CeeLo was performing with Daryl Hall?
I was not. We did it was I think it was The Voice, one of those TV shows that CeeLo was on, and he recognized the rest of the guys in the band, but I was not on that Daryl's House show that he was on.
Well, CeeLo held his own. I mean, I got to give him credit.
Oh yeah, well, definitely.
And then Daryl still takes part. So I mean, Daryl let CeeLo kind of took the lead on some of his songs, and then he would just come on and finish it off. So definitely the respect factor.
Yeah, that's kind of the way they do it on Daryl's House. It's like somebody will come in and they'll sing a Daryl song or a Hall & Oates song, and then Daryl will sing on some of their songs. And then they'll maybe do some cover songs.
Right. But again, you're still being, I mean, I know you're a multi-instrumentalist and you play the keyboard, but the saxophone is still the main instrument that you participate with?
So I have well, basically now there's only like one little flute thing that I play in the live show, and soprano sax.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, the soprano sax. I played on a couple of Hall Oates songs, but we're not doing any of those in the show. But I'm playing it on "Hello, It's Me," but in Todd Rundgren's set.
Right.
And that was another thing. Was like, oh, who played that solo? That's a great solo. Michael Brecker played it, of course. And so, all right, I had to write this one out. No, okay, I got it.
Well, Charles, let me ask you a question. What was it like? You mentioned off of the air, and I see on your bio that you worked with Mick Jagger and Tina Turner. I mean, what was that like participating with those two?
Well, we played Live Aid in Philadelphia, and it was huge. The audience was gigantic, and it was televised, and so I guess millions of people saw that. Yeah, Mick was great, and I didn't even see Tina until we got on stage.
So now, when you get on stage with Mick Jagger or Tina Turner, you're playing the saxophone as part of it?
I played on "Miss You." There's a harmonica solo, and I played the sax on that.
Okay, now outside, let's say, of Hall & Oates, were those the two biggest artists that you've worked with, or has there been any other artists beyond, at a high level, like, when you mentioned?
At a high level, yeah. Well, yeah, basically. I haven't been, I've bin with Hall & Oates since 1976, basically. And I've, some well-known people that I've worked with sort of, that have worked with Daryl and John, or with Daryl. I've played with, I played on some of their stuff, but yeah, that's been pretty much my career. I didn't think that when I first joined that was going to be my whole career, but it sort of kind of turned out to be that.
Was you on stage when Daryl Hall performed with the Temptations, David Ruffin?
Oh, yeah.
You were there?
In fact, in Live Aid, the Temptations, Eddie Kendrick and David Ruffin from the Temptations, and Daryl and John, they did the steps, the Temptations walk or whatever, and we also played the Apollo Theater, and what else? I think it was one other thing that we played, but those were the two really big things that we did with David and Eddie.
Now, isn't it true that Daryl Hall kind of idolized and looked up to the Temptations? I know he worked.
Oh, yeah. Daryl and John both.
Right.
Definitely looked up to them, yeah.
And then what? Leonard Huff and James Gamble. Well, who's the Huff? The two producers. Is it Huff and Gamble that Daryl Hall worked with at one point? I don't know if you were a member of
he worked with them early on, in Philadelphia. I think when he was going to Temple.
Oh, okay.
He did some background singing with them, played some keyboards on the records too. Yeah.
But again, you kind of came along with Hall & Oates when they were just kind of really getting established, getting really popular. I mean, they were together before you became a member of the band.
By the time that I joined them, I think they were on maybe their fifth album, bigger than both of us. There was Hall Oates, there was Ben de la Jeanette, there was the one that Todd Rundgren actually produced. It was called oh, come on. Brown album.
Right. Maybe it'll come back to you.
It'll come back to me. That kind of stuff. You're like, oh, I'll think of it in a minute.
Right. Now, Man Eat Again was their most successful song. It stayed at #1 for 4 weeks. Out of all the good songs, why do you think that song did the most? Obviously, you played a role in that, as I mentioned earlier, with the introduction. But why does that song, seems a lot of good songs they had, but that one seems to be their most successful song out of all of their songs?
It's a mystery to me. I mean, it's a mystery to anybody that this song is going to be a hit. Well, you never know that, And then sometimes I think was it Rich Girl that some DJ picked and played it, and people picked up on it. they didn't think that was going to be a hit, but it turned out to be a hit. You know?
Yeah, I'm wondering, did Out of Touch go number one? Because Hall & Oates had like 6 #1 singles. I don't know if Out of Touch was one.
Yeah, Out of Touch was a big hit.
Yeah. But did you participate? I think I seen you a little bit towards the end of that video, Out of Touch. If you look,
Out of Touch.
It looked like it was you.
That was. I remember recording that. I went in, and they were like, "Well, we want you to play sax on this, but we don't want it to sound like a sax." Okay, so they worked on the sound and tried to make it not sound like a sax. And then we tried something that I wouldn't like it. We want you to play it like it's not a sax. Okay, I tried that, and then he said, "You know what? We're not going to put a sax solo on that." So there you go.
Yeah, because that song I remember hearing a lot of the drums and the guitar, but I don't recall hearing the sax too much in that song. If I even heard the sax,
no, there's no sax. I don't. When we do that live, I just play keyboards on it and sing back up.
Yeah, but that was a real hot song at that point. And then again, like you say, sometimes now Daryl Hall did go solo at certain times, and he kind of held his own being solo. But you always kind of mention, or you always kind of recognize them as being the group Hall and Oates, even though Hall takes the lead in many of the songs. Like
well, Daryl's done several solo albums and solo tours too. They always seem to come back together. This latest thing, I don't know if they're going to get back together behind that, but John has been doing solo stuff himself too.
Mm-hmm. And again, why do you think y'all longevity has been so, I guess, long? I mean, that's a long time to be in a group, and to be
it is, and you know, I think it's basically the material. They write good songs. Mm-hmm. I'm thinking like if I had played in a group that I hated their music, I don't think I would have stayed very long. You know.
Right. Now, do you think Hall & Oates goes, I mean, they get credited for being the best pop duo of all time, but do you think Hall & Oates is a little bit more broader than just a pop group when you recognize Hall & Oates, that y'all can do many other different types of style of music beyond just pop music?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, they've known, you know, they were basically known for their pop songs, but I don't think you can limit them to just pop music.
No, definitely. Because again, I mean, I think the R&B song of the one I just mentioned a little while ago, "You Can't Go For That." I think that was a top R&B song. I don't know if it was number one, but I think that song did get a lot of R&B play when that song came out. And the song did actually go number one. I think it bumped off Olivia Newton-John.
Yeah. I think One and One actually was played on the R&B stations too.
It was very hard.
Popular. Yeah.
Exactly. But I think, you know, the R&B influence, you know, you definitely, like I mentioned, you know, you can say Michael Jackson, he got the inspiration from one of the songs of Hall & Oates, "I Can't Go For That." And again, if you listen real closely, you'll see in the introduction, it sounds a little similar to Billie Jean. But what do you think about the King of Pop, though? I mean, since you're here, I mean, he goes down. I mean, Michael Jackson. I mean, did he have any influence on yourself or Hall & Oates a little bit, Michael Jackson?
I really can't see a whole lot of influence of Michael Jackson. I mean, it was ubiquitous on the airwaves, you know, and the videos too. I mean, yeah.
Well, the videos kind of Michael Jackson and Hall & Oates with MTV kind of comes along about the same time. But actually, you can go back to the 70s and see videos that Hall & Oates did participate on. So it's, you know, it may seem like Hall & Oates video wise came along during the 80s with MTV, but you actually had videos before then. It just wasn't, you know, on cable television because you really didn't have cable.
Yeah, they did a video on "She's Gone." I don't know if you've seen this. It's something to see.
I think I did see that though. Yeah,
way before MTV. Yeah,
right. Because Daryl had a different type of look. If you look at the beginning, he looked at it a lot differently when he first came along. I'll let you respond to that look he had. I don't know if that was the video that you're talking about, but it was one video where the two of them are sitting down, and
Yeah.
it just looked like a strange video. I mean, I can't.
It was a strange video. John had like a penguin suit on. He was
Yeah.
trying to play guitar with a penguin suit.
And everything. But again, I mean, I definitely appreciative to have you on All About You this morning. And, you know, I definitely think you're one of the best saxophonists of all time. And I think
I appreciate that. Thanks very much.
Definitely very impressive. And again, you know, any future project, I did ask you this question already, but as we're closing this particular segment of the show, anything that you are planning that you would like for people to know about yourself?
I have several, I would have to say CDs that are out that I recorded of my own material. You can find it on, let's see, I was signed up for CD Baby. It's on Apple Music and Spotify and all that. You can find it, Charlse DeChant. And the first one that I did was with a band, so it's called Charlse DeChant Band, which seems to be a whole totally different thing. But it was, it's all my original material. I play sax and flutes, and the latest couple of things that I've been doing have been guitar based. I've written a bunch of stuff on acoustic guitar, and I'm about to come up with another one. I've got one that's called Open Strings. It's all guitars and flutes and saxes and whatnot. And this latest thing is probably even more acoustic guitar.
Well, again, Charles, you actually do more than just saxophone. I don't want people to get the interpretation that it's just saxophone alone that you do. You are a multi-instrumentalist. You play the keyboard. You play a guitar. You do some background singing. At least I've seen you in Hall Oates. So you do more than just the saxophone. I don't want people to get this impression and everything. But that's what drew me to you. Obviously, your saxophone style.
Well, sure, that's my main instrument. That's what people mostly know me for. Yeah.
Exactly. And I guess that's your studio in the background, or just your office space where I see the piano.
Yeah, it's my studio office. You know, I've got a piano.
And then those awards too up at the top.
Yeah.
So you don't get awards by accident. You know, nobody. No. They just give you that or you didn't buy that, so you had to earn that. and everything. Yeah. So
I don't think I've ever bought any of those. You know.
Exactly. Well, again, I mean,
I've heard of people like that won gold records that say, "I'm going to play this record and see, you know, what it sounds like." And it's usually somebody else's record, but they put gold on it. You know.
Yeah, to do that. Well, again, Charles, I mean, it was our pleasure. I mean, having you on. I think you have a real interesting career, and I think it's very appreciative. I mean, as a kid growing up, love listening to Hall Oates. Still love listening to Hall Oates, particularly the oldies, and always wondered who this person consists of playing that saxophone. I just never paid. You know, you always listen to the song, you hear the saxophone, and then you look at you in some of the videos. But, you know, Daryl Hall and John Oates get so much of the recognition. And I just thought that the people behind it, the people that was in the band, definitely deserve some of the recognition. And you're definitely one of the best in the music business. And I definitely want to give you your clear shout of recognition as well.
Thanks very much.
Okay. It's our pleasure having you on here this morning on All About You. Definitely was an interesting, fun show. Any last words you want to say before we end this particular segment? Feel free to do so.
No, I can't think of anything.
Can't think of anything? Okay. So we will have to end it on that note, believe it or not.
All right. Thank you, Jonathan.
Okay. Likewise, and you're welcome. And you have a good rest of your day as well.
All right. You too.
Okay. All right. Take care. Okay. All right, this is Jonathan Small. I had just enjoyed hosting this edition of All About You with the special guest, a multi-instrumentalist, Charlse DeChant, and it was definitely a fun, interesting type of program, and I look forward to having you back here next week, either with an All About You or face-to-face. It's more likely it's going to be a face-to-face. I like to keep it balanced, but you never know. It might be an interesting guest that I might just want to decide to go with All About You. But until you see me again next week, for people out there, have a very peaceful, blessed day. Thank you.